Good afternoon to the chat. I'll let a couple more people come into the chat before we get started. Welcome. Neon Eyes, good afternoon. How are you? Dave Tao, what's good with you? Underrated Darkness, what's good with you? We'll get started momentarily. How's everybody doing so far? I'm guessing everyone was off today. I know I was. Unfortunately, I'll be working tomorrow on Christmas and the day after. But I'll be paid handsomely for it, so I definitely won't complain. Volunteer work for military vets. Well, that's very admirable of you to volunteer on the holidays. Very, very admirable. Thank you, everybody, for showing up. It's more of a pop-up, very short notice, but I think it's more organic when I do things on a whim, as opposed to extensive forethought. I think people become disengaged when you. I don't know. I tend to get too technical when I try to plan things out in advance and pre-write certain dialogue. I think that disengages the viewer when you get too technical. Sometimes it's better just to be organic and just have conversational speech, especially when you're live streaming. So today we're going to be talking about Otto Warmbier. Otto Warmbier. And for those of you that don't know who Otto Warmbier is, we'll kind of go over that a little bit and kind of do a quick refresher on exactly who that person is. Let's see here. Okay. Go with the flow. I do. I hear you. I hear you. I hear you. Definitely. Okay, so Otto Warmbier was an American traveler. About 2015, he was 22 years old, and he traveled to North Korea. I'm sure he had a reason why he traveled to North Korea in his mind. I mean, most people, most rational people, and this is no offense to him, but most rational people would avoid traveling to North Korea, especially being someone from a westernized civilization. The relations between North Korea in most westernized countries is not too great. So for him to travel to North Korea, knowing the implications of that visit, and the potential outcomes of that visit, I don't know, wasn't the smartest idea. Obviously, he was a little bit younger. He was 22 years old, so I won't hold him too accountable for that, but I digress. So he went to North Korea on a tour. Um, there's a lot of rigmarole, to say the least, to get a tour to North Korea. Uh, much as there's a lot of, we'll say, bureaucracy just to go to Cuba, but North Korea to an even greater extent. You can't go there unaccompanied. You have to go there as a tour. And even then, you need special permissions and authorizations and things of that nature from both the American government as well as the North Korean government. So he was about to leave in January in 2016, and North Korean authorities arrested him. And they accused him of committing a hostile act that threatened the single-minded unity of the country's citizens. Now, we got to remember that North Korea is a totally different animal than the United States. It's a very homogenous culture. They have a supreme leader, almost like a monarchy, totalitarian, somewhat of a monarchy, because the successors to the thrones are all in the same lineage. So I guess you would kind of call it a monarchy, although they don't consider themselves to be kings. It's very much akin to being a monarchy because their power is absolute. The individual who's considered the supreme leader, his power is unchecked. And so you have those two elements together. You have an homogenous society as well as a supreme leader on a throne. It's just going to be a very different experience, very different than what somebody would experience here in the United States. So just bear that in mind. The picture you see on the screen now is a photograph of Otto Warmbier. And he's accompanied by two North Korean, I believe they're either police officers or military. It's hard to tell because some countries, the military and the police wear many of the same uniforms. But this particular photograph was taken around 2016. And I believe this was in January. Now, in February 2016, in Pyongyang, North Korea, Otto Warmbier read from a prepared statement before state media. And he declared that he committed the severe crime of stealing a propaganda poster from a hotel. I don't know if this is true or not, but I would lean towards believing this actual accusation. He's 22 years old, so I'm sure he didn't understand the ramifications of removing that poster that he took allegedly. It's unfortunate how the situation turned out. He ended up being arrested for it, but again, it's a totalitarian country with a supreme leader. So penalties in situations like that can be quite harsh, especially since it's ruled by what is called a supreme leader. And from my understanding, he isn't the most mentally stable leader. We have to realize that he was extremely spoiled. So that kind of plays into your psyche as a person growing up, knowing that you would inherit that throne, not really being held accountable, probably did things as he grew up, and wasn't held accountable because of who his father was. He was educated outside of North Korea, I believe, but then he returned to North Korea to succeed the throne. So during the confession, Otto Warmbier begged for mercy, but he was sentenced to 15 years of hard labor. So I don't know exactly what hard labor entails in North Korea, but I'd imagine it's not pleasant. North Korea does get very cold. That's one thing to think about. Exposure to the elements and hard labor. That's going to be a significantly shorter lifespan for anybody. Even the most healthy individuals sentenced to hard labor 15 years. You might as well be, that 15 years of hard labor will age you 30 years. Easy, if not more. So eventually, he was released in 2017. So he didn't serve anywhere near his total sentence. And he was released on what the North Korean government called a humanitarian gesture. But unfortunately, when he was released brain dead. So he wasn't able to walk. He was released on a stretcher. Now, the media said that he was comatose, blind, and deaf. But I mean, if you're brain dead, obviously you're going to be comatose. So brain dead means that there's a diminished, almost null electrical activity in the brain. And this is measured by what's called an EEG. It's an encephalogram, and it measures the electrical impulses by the central nervous system. And this is what we perceive as consciousness, this electrical activity within the brain. So I'm not sure if it was, to what degree his brain function was subdued, whether it was completely off. There was some type of electrical activity, maybe just for the bare necessities such as breathing and some of the digestive process, but maybe not enough electrical activity to formulate a consciousness. So at any rate, the media, they said he was brain dead and comatose, which is, you can be comatose and not brain dead, but you can't be brain dead and not comatose. If you're brain dead, you are comatose. Also blind and deaf. How exactly they were able to ascertain that information, maybe he was blinded and deaf prior to entering into a brain dead state. But anyways, this is the state that he was released to his family in. So now we have some time later here, this 2018, almost 2019, the family actually filed a suit against the North Korean government. And initially, they requested 1.05 billion in punitive damages and about 46 million for the family suffering. And this motion was filed in October in the U.S. District Court in Washington, D.C. The actual Supreme Court justice ruled that the North Korea was liable for torture, hostage taking, and extrajudicial killing of Otto Warmbier, and the injuries to his mother, to his mother and father. And it's basically for a mother's anguish. So for their pain and suffering and anguish over their son's death, this is the reason why they were awarded to the tune of $501 million, just over $500 million. And the reason why this is interesting, now mind you, I don't think there's anything that can actually compensate for someone's life. No amount of money can equate to the loss that you experience, especially for a parent having to bury their own child. I can't even imagine that. I don't have any children myself, but I do at least empathize with them, if not sympathize. But in this particular case, he was young. He's 22 years old. He had his whole life ahead of him. And it's still a mystery exactly what events transpired that led up to him being returned to the U.S. in the state he was in where he was brain dead. There is speculation, but again, that is just speculation. But at any rate, he came home in a condition that was vastly different from how he went to North Korea. The family was obviously upset about that, and then with his untimely demise, they requested damages. Whether or not they deserve damages to the tune of $501 million, this is not what this debate is about. It's not why I'm making this stream. The reason why I'm actually making this stream and pointing out this new judgment that Otto Warmbier received, or the family of Otto Warmbier received, that was awarded by the U.S. government on behalf of Otto Warmbier's parents. And this order, obviously ordered to North Korea, which is, I don't know, to me it seems comical, because do we really think North Korea is going to actually pay $501 million, pay anything? I don't know. That just seems a little bit far-fetched to me. Maybe they'd call me crazy, but maybe it was just an actual symbolic judgment to say that, hey, North Korea, we hold you accountable for your activities. But the real issue is that here in the United States, there are 29 states, along with DC and the entire United States government. So when I say the United States government, so there are cases where that are federal offenses, where you will be in prison under the federal penitentiary system. And then you have the state penitentiary system as well. DC, District of Columbia, they're kind of like a state, even though it's like a city. But I believe their prisoners are housed in federal facilities, but it's still considered a state penitentiary system. It's kind of weird. DC's, there's a little bit kind of a gray area there, but again, the overall concept is that there are 29 distinct states, along with DC, to make 30, and then the federal government for the federal penitentiary system, that offer compensation for the wrongfully convicted. So we've all heard of stories where individuals are released after serving 15 years in prison, 30 years in prison, 27 years in prison, 10 years in prison, after DNA evidence or maybe some type of confession, maybe some type of physical evidence proved that they were innocent all along. And this was a George W. Bush endorsed congressional recommendation of $50,000 a year for each year served wrongfully, plus $50,000 a year for each year served on death row. Then with today's inflation, that'd be about 63,000. So I'm not sure if it actually went up to 63,000, but I know that with inflation, compared to the time that it was actually enacted to now, it'd be equivalent about 63,000 a year for each. In Texas, the compensation is 80,000 a year. Obviously, that's where George W. Bush is from, so there will be more of a push to compensate those who were wrongfully convicted. Along with the $80,000 a year, there's actually an annuity of the same amount. So I'm not sure how that annuity is dispersed, but we have 80,000 plus 80,000, that's $160,000 a year. Again, that's money that would help you get established and help you reintegrate back into the civilian sector. But it's not like it's going to compensate you for the years you served behind bars. The actual psychological damage that's been done to you. The actual acts of violence that may or may not have been committed against you while you were incarcerated. the health deterioration that occurred from a physical standpoint, poor diet, things of that nature that occur for somebody that's going to be, incarcerated. So that amount definitely does not compensate. But it's odd that you have such a low amount for the United States citizens paid by the United States government for those that are wrongfully convicted. But this individual, Otto Warmbier, was in prison in another country. In a country, in fact, that the United States doesn't have the best of relations with, yet they passed a judgment for them to pay $501 million because this person had significant health issues arise. It might have been due to neglect or mistreatment while he was incarcerated in North Korea. And they feel as though if compensation is due to the family of the deceased. But for its own citizens, America thinks that $50,000 a year is okay. Now, this is a unique case because Otto Warmbier was killed, or actually allegedly killed. He died as a result of injuries sustained, or maybe malnourishment, maltreatment, who knows, health deterioration that occurred while in North Korea. But we have individuals in the United States that are killed by police as well. How are their families compensated? Definitely not to the tune of $500 million. So it's ironic that the United States government will order another country to pay an exorbitant amount, but yet don't even have the same expectations for states and provinces within its own boundaries. That really strikes me as odd. I don't see how that is even feasible. Because you acknowledge, because this is a statement that you acknowledge that somebody who dies, and perhaps they're presuming that this individual is innocent, but he suffers injuries while in captivity that ultimately result in his death. And he's to be compensated. This is what this statement says. So I believe that this should set a precedent for anybody who dies at the hands of law enforcement officials. Because if they die because of improper execution of force prior to actually receiving a trial, then by all means, they should be held liable just as North Korean government is being held liable. But that doesn't happen. Now, I'm not going to say that there's a specific reason why. I mean, I'm sure there's people in the chat that may say, oh, well, the reason why they're pushing for is because he's this or he's that. I'm not going to speculate. I'm not going to make it a race or color thing. But what I will say is that there is definitely a perversion of justice that occurs on a routine basis here in the United States. Because if you can order the North Korean government to pay somebody $501 million, why are these local police departments, these state governments, not ordered to pay the same amount? Because if these state governments were ordered to pay $500 million for the wrongful death of someone, I guarantee you the nonsense would stop immediately. Immediately. I'm not talking about a week, a month. I'm talking about it would be an across the board change immediately. But obviously it's not that important, depending on the demographic being victimized. This is what this judgment says to me. And it's sad. At least once a month, I scroll through the news timeline and I see a case where somebody's been released after being wrongfully accused years ago. And mind you, 29 states have compensation statutes. That means 21 don't. So if you're in one of those 21 states with no compensation statute, guess what? Don't expect anything. And to top that off, the actual accusers aren't being held accountable to the same degree. You got people falsely accusing people and walking around free. And for those that do actually get jail time, it's significantly less than what would have been mandated for the person accused to serve. Again, a perversion of justice. Bentley 3805, good to see you. Ornell Waters, good to see you. King Hebrew, good to see you. Neon Eyes, good to see you. Angel Muniz, good to see you. Vonda Harris, good to see you. I wish you all a cancerous Christmas. What is up? I want to know who deleted that message. I want to know what he said or who or what she said. I'm just curious about what this individual, I wish you all a cancerous Christmas, said. By the name, I'm assuming it was a troll. Naima Buckner, good to see you. I don't remember seeing you here before, but you're very welcome here. Thank you for joining me. Let me see. Did not miss anybody. Zero Kelvin. Good to see you. The key term is wrongful death. People attempting to flee from lawful arrest doesn't fit in this category. And that's where there's a gray area. If somebody's fleeing from arrest, is the use of deadly force actually mandated? Is it actually warranted? Let's be honest here. If somebody's fleeing from me, why would I shoot them? Now, if them fleeing, maybe they're fleeing in a vehicle and they're risking endangering somebody else's lives, they're driving erratically, perhaps. But if they're just running, especially if they're running on foot, I don't think the use of deadly force, because I think that the person needs to answer for their crimes. And what if they're not guilty of the crime that you assume they're guilty of? The only crime they're actually committing is evading arrest. Does that warrant the death penalty? It's people that commit murders that don't get the death penalty. Ratchet Kingdoms. Okay, Ratchet Kingdoms. He didn't sue. He's dead. The person in the picture is Otto Warmbier. He died as a result of, I don't want to speculate, but he was in prison in North Korea, sentenced to 15 years hard labor. He was released after about a year and a half or so. And, basically a humanitarian gesture is what North Korea called it. When he was released from custody, he was released brain dead. So once he actually went back home, I'm not sure if they actually removed life support or he just died as a result of complications of being brain dead. I didn't really look at the actual specifics of his brain dead, because when somebody's brain dead, there's various reasons why they can die. And it depends on the actual extent of what you would consider being brain dead, because somebody could be brain dead and not have any higher intellectual functions, but parts of the brainstem, parts of the central nervous system may actually support some of the basic bodily functions such as breathing and regulation of the heart rate. So that's why I say I don't know exactly what happened as far as why specifically he died, because there's specific reasons why somebody dies, and it usually pertains to breathing or circulation. Those are the two primary reasons why somebody dies: breathing or circulation. Now, there are sometimes contributing factors that may cause a ceasing of breathing or a ceasing of circulation, but ultimately you can trace it to, because even if somebody's brain dead, usually that brain death leads to them not being able to breathe on their own, or not being able to sustain a heart rate on their own. What was the excuse for his condition? I don't really know if they actually gave an excuse. I believe they said he got ill or something like that. I'm not sure, but it's been so long ago, the actual story, with this actual rehash of the story with this judgment, they didn't really go into specifics of why he originally came back in the condition he did. He was released after negotiations spearheaded by 45. Once and future man, what's good with you? Hey, what's going on? At this point, I think I pretty much covered everything with this story I want to cover. So I do want to open up the panel for anybody that wants to discuss this with me. If you do want to discuss this, go ahead and put your email in the live chat, and I will send you a link directly. So if anybody wants to discuss this, please let me know at this time. Is there anyone here that wants to discuss this? Bentley? If I got something wrong, please let me know. You're welcome to come on the panel. Once and future man, this is I did touch on that earlier. I mean, I think it's very far-fetched. Yeah, it's I hate to make light of the situation because somebody did die, regardless of what his role in or his level of accountability is in the situation. I don't think what he did warranted his death. I'll just say that. I don't even think it warranted 15 years hard labor. But again, that's a different country. Their laws are different. When you're in somebody else's country, you got to respect their laws, or else don't go there. There are certain countries I won't go to for that very reason. I won't go to North Korea. I just won't. I don't want to go somewhere where I have to have a guide. And it's like I'm walking on eggshells. I don't want to go to a country where I got to feel like that. And I don't really think there's anything that there's not a reason that compels me to go to North Korea. Obviously, it's a different place. It's a foreign land. To be interesting to, the sightseeing and stuff like that. But it's not that interesting. Well, I would risk my life, limb, or eyesight to go there. Those Asian dudes are laughing their asses off. I would like to see the details of the settlement. Okay. I was trying to be brief with the details. But basically the details were split like I think it was split between the parents in two parts. And that's the total of the actual payments, because there's like a grieving payment or anguish payment. Then there's like a punitive payment. So punitive is almost like punishment, and the anguish is like the pain and suffering of losing a loved one. So those two type of payments for each parent, and then you add the total of those amounts all together. So 4 different payments, 2 for each parent, punitive and an anguish payment. So 4 total, and those numbers added all together gets to the amount of $501 million. Now remember, they initially sued for 1.05 billion, you know, and plus like 40 some million in punitive damages. So this is significantly less than the original amount that they sued for, but it's still a lot. $500 million is a lot. No, it's not going to ever replace their son. You know, he died in his early 20s, so they didn't really get to spend that much time with him. They didn't really get to. He didn't get a chance to realize his dreams and aspirations, and they didn't get a chance to see his dreams and aspirations realized. So that's the big tragedy there. You know, had he died at, say, maybe 45, 50 years old, you know, it would have still been devastating, but at least they got to see him become something. But at 22 years old, you know, they didn't really get to see what he would have been. You know, they didn't really get to see his actual personality, because you're still developing your personality at 22 years old. You know, I'm a lot different from what I was when I was 22. I'm in my 30s, and there's definitely a change between the 20s and 30s. So I imagine there's an even greater change between the 30s and 40s, subsequently the 50s and 60s. Let's see here. Thank you, Neon Eyes, for the endorsements. I appreciate that. Bentley 3805. It was a bogus charge to start with. I lived in South Korea for a year and never had a desire to visit North Korea. Well, again, right? We're talking about North Korea. We're talking about a country that has a supreme leader, right? And my impression is that he's quite egotistical, right? And understandably so. Imagine you being the supreme leader. This is different from being a king. This is an echelon above being a king. It's not a president, not a king, not an emperor, but a supreme leader. This is like a divine appointment, which is the belief of a lot of the citizens of North Korea. You know, these people are brainwashed. They've been conditioned for generations. He's the third in line, from my understanding. Supreme leadership. So you have to understand, this guy, Kim Jong, you know, his level of narcissism and power intoxication is unfathomable. I mean, he could literally do anything he wants to in this. I mean, he literally owns the country. So if somebody does something disrespectful, even if it's not a big deal for him, his ego is on the line. So, I mean, somebody 22 is not going to really be able to comprehend and understand that. I understand it because I'm older, but again, this guy was 22. I don't think he really deserved to experience what he experienced because of what he did. But again, that's another country, you know, it's their rules. I just wouldn't go there. But That's just me. The devil are in the details. There should be a restitution schedule included. Bentley, do you think they're gonna pay? Bentley, they're not gonna. North Korea is not gonna pay $501 million for this guy. You talking about a payment schedule? I mean, I'm not trying to laugh because it's a sad situation, but I don't think North Korea is gonna pay. I'm gonna just tell you that right now. I don't think they're gonna pay. No amount of money will ease their grieving hearts. Nope. Right? He didn't get to self-actualize those things either. See how your reality, what's going on with you? You missed the stream. We already went over basically what happened. So basically, Otto Warmbier was the guy who went to North Korea, got arrested, sentenced to hard labor, but then negotiation ended up releasing him. But they released him in a coma. He was brain dead. He eventually died, and so his family sued North Korean government, and the American government, the U.S. courts ruled that North Korea is liable for $501 million and ordered them to pay it. Now, I don't think they'll pay it, but hey, that's just me. I talked to people who visited North Korea, and the level of control he has on the people is public is astonishing. Yeah, but you gotta remember, Bentley. This is a couple generations in the making, right? So it's not like he just seized power and took over, and people started to kind of yield to him. No, this is they've already been conditioned through a couple of generations. So you have the people that live in North Korea now never knew a North Korea without a supreme leader. Think about that. Their parents, the people that the oldest generation that's in North Korea, that's alive in North Korea now, their parents grew up under a supreme leader. So they're conditioned at this point. This is the reason why I'm not, their level of, and then we talk about, North Korean military, and we assume that America is the world superpower, that we can't be touched. But we remember the Vietnam War, the amount of casualties that we experienced in the Vietnam War. So definitely wouldn't underestimate North Korea, especially a homogenous, brainwashed population. A homogenous and brainwashed population. There's no doubt in my mind that they wouldn't fight to the death. There's no doubt. Whereas a lot of American soldiers, I'm gonna just be honest with you, they rather be captured than to die. North Korea, I think they rather die than be captured. See, that's a different type of adversary. When you face an adversary that will kill themselves to kill you, or to prevent you the satisfaction of taking them hostage. No, it's a different type of adversary. If 44 were in office, I would agree with you, but I don't think 45 will let North Korea skate on paying up. In addition, North Korea wants to stay in good graces of the U.S., so the odds of paying are higher than normal. If they really want to stay in that good of graces of the U.S., they would have surrendered all their nuclear weapons and suspended nuclear weapon development. They're not going to do that. The United States really has no leverage over North Korea. They already have heavy sanctions on them. What else are they going to do? North Korea doesn't trade with the United States. So North Korea trades with China. Nicole Ali, good evening. All right, good to see you, Nicole Ali. How are you? Our warrior mindset is much stronger now. We will never face the level of defeat we faced in Vietnam. Never say never. Never say never. Because we went to war with China right now. You think we will win that war? I don't know about that one, Bentley. Bentley, if you want to come on this panel and debate, we can. I wouldn't say a debate, have a discussion, because it's not like we debating. But if you want to come on the panel and have a discussion, so I don't have to keep reading your chats. And anybody else, as I said before, the panel is open for those of you that want to discuss this or discuss anything for that matter. Just put your email in the chat, and I will send you a link directly to join me on Google Hangouts. Again, if anybody wants to actually join this conversation via Google Hangouts, leave your email in the chat, and I will send you an invite directly. And again, the reason why I talked about this particular story is because we have individuals here in the United States that I don't believe are fairly compensated for the time they spend incarcerated unfairly and wrongfully. People who lose their lives before even facing trial. How are their families compensated for wrongful deaths? They're not. But yet United States expects North Korea. I don't even know if they really expect North Korea. Maybe it's just a symbolic gesture just to place blame squarely on North Korea and say that, hey, we're holding you accountable. Maybe that's what it is. But at the end of the day, it just sends a message that, hey, the United States is able to recognize injustice. They just pick and choose who to hold accountable. Because we have people within the United States, people who are entrusted to protect and serve the population, who are guilty of this very same crime that North Korea is being accused of. Yet their families don't receive justice. Their families aren't awarded compensation to the tune of $501 million. Individuals unfairly and wrongfully incarcerated don't receive judgments to the tune of $501 million. Have we not had prisoners die in custody before their day in court, before they were proven guilty in the court of law? I can think of a couple cases where people have died before they face trial. Otto Warmbier went to trial, made a confession. Maybe it was under duress, but he made a confession. He was found guilty in the North Korean courts. There is no evidence that has surfaced since then that has proven his innocence. And I'm not saying that he's guilty. I'm not saying that he's innocent either. But what I'm saying is that we don't have any evidence that says that he's innocent. The last judgment we have is him being guilty and him admitting to it. But the actual accusations by the United States government, let's see here. What did they say here? There is some specific terminology by the United States government. Let me see here. The United States government said that North Korea was liable for the torture, hostage taking, and extrajudicial killing of Otto Warmbier. Torture, hostage taking, and extrajudicial killing of Otto Warmbier. Now, Otto Warmbier was apprehended by law enforcement officials. He was accused of a crime. He confessed to the crime. He was convicted of the crime. He was sentenced to 15 years hard labor. The terminology they use doesn't reflect what actually happened. And again, I'm not saying that he was guilty. I'm saying that certain events transpired that some people would ascertain that North Korea was well within their rights to incarcerate him. I will say never. I believe in my troops. LOL, I'm preparing for Jesus' birthday party. I can't hop on a hangout at the moment. Okay. Respect to you. What power does the U.S. have to hold North Korea accountable? Absolutely none. And that's the whole point. Unless they're willing to declare war over this individual. They've gone through such great lengths to hold North Korea liable, but yet they can't hold their own police officers here in the United States accountable for the acts of atrocity they commit against our own citizens here. I mean, y'all tell me in the chat, am I just tripping? Or are you guys okay with this? I mean, maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm just overreacting. But I think there's a serious problem with the existence of this judgment, but that there are no parallels within our own society here in the United States, our own country. I'm not saying that there shouldn't have been a judgment against North Korea. I'm not saying that the family shouldn't be awarded 501 million, or that North Korea shouldn't be ordered to pay 501 million. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is that if you're going to order North Korea to pay that kind of money, what are we doing about the acts of atrocity that occur here in the United States on a routine basis? He took down a propaganda poster. Yep, that's exactly what happened. Now, they said that he stole the propaganda poster. So that was his charge, stealing and and this is a serious crime. The serious crime in North Korea is, you see, just like, I believe it's Indonesia, or is it Malaysia? I think it's Indonesia. Maybe it's Malaysia. But chewing gum in public is a crime. And we may look at that, well, how's that a crime? That's not a big deal. But guess what? It's a crime in that country. Some countries may look at our crime of quote unquote jaywalking as not a big deal. But in the United States, it's considered a crime. Is it always enforced? No, but it can be. When you're in another country, you have to respect their laws and statutes. That's just the way it is. Because you have the option of not going there. Personally, I prefer to exercise my option of not going to North Korea, because I don't want to get sentenced to 15 years of hard labor. I'll deploy to North Korea to ensure that this family receives their money. Bentley. Okay, Bentley, go ahead. You go ahead and send me a postcard from that North Korean prison cell that they're gonna throw you in as soon as you get off the damn plane. It was all just show. They would never do that here because they know they would have to pay. I believe this is an unfair comparison. The factors of both issues are different in many ways. Okay. I think I pretty much laid it out. Right? They have their laws in their country. So Bentley, let me ask you this. Based on the laws and statutes in North Korea, based on the accusation of him stealing a propaganda poster, right? And remember, this is a homogenous country with the supreme leader. Propaganda is a very important component of him, Kim Jong, maintaining control. Kim Jong is not a physical specimen. Now, I'm sure maybe he knows some self-defense skills or something like that. But in a combat, even in a one-on-one fight, would you look at him as a threat? Probably not. There's people that are in his immediate vicinity, his generals, his bodyguards, his protectors, people that are around him all day that probably wouldn't respect him, that probably wouldn't perceive him as a threat. But because he has such strong propaganda, this is what keeps the masses in line. So when we think about things from that perspective, we can understand them being very, very particular about their propaganda posters and the fact that somebody tore it down. And what message does that send that somebody can tear down a propaganda poster and get away with it? This is how he maintains control in this country. So with that being said, him being accused in North Korea of stealing a propaganda poster, based on North Korean government, can you understand North Korea? Can you at least understand North Korea imprisoning him? Not that you think it was worthy from your perspective of him being in prison for 15 years, but can you at least understand from their perspective why they would do something like that? And that's going to Bentley. Nicole Ali, I'd be in jail. Well, I understand their position. I understand they have to deal with him harshly to keep control of their citizens. Okay. Okay. So this individual is sentenced to prison, to hard labor. Something happens while he's in prison. Maybe some illness. Maybe there was some torture occurred. We can't confirm or deny what happened there. We can only speculate. At some point, he was released back to the United States, but he was released in a coma. Okay. So now him being in a coma, he returns to the United States and then dies sometime after his return. And the assumption is that his death was due to complications of him being brain dead. And that brain death was a condition he acquired while in North Korea. But it occurred while he was in captivity. But the captivity, according to North Korean laws and statutes, was warranted. Maybe by our standards, it wasn't warranted, but by North Korean standards, It was warranted. See, this is the reason this is the reason why I'm saying that he really had no business being there. Now, mind you, he was 22 years old. Probably not going to be the best decision maker. I know I wasn't at 22. I made a lot of dumb decisions at 22. But his decision cost him his life. North Sentinel Island, the same, very, very different situation. But I'll just say that he went to that island, he was killed. But that was based on the actual, I won't say laws or statutes. I don't know what they would consider it on that particular island, but their system of governance on that island. Maybe they have a council of elders. I don't know how their government system or governance system works on North Sentinel Island, but he was summarily executed. He was perceived to be an intruder. He was killed. He was doing something he wasn't supposed to do. And based on the actual code and culture of that particular group of people on North Sentinel Island, he was sentenced to death and summarily executed. Should his family be entitled to compensation from North Sentinel Island peoples? I doubt they have any hard currency, but just symbolically. I mean, we got to ask ourselves, yeah, it's sad that he died, and we feel that he shouldn't die, but it's hard to really hold another country accountable, especially North Korea. I don't believe it's part of the UN. So how can you hold them accountable to your laws of your country? If I was North Korea, I would turn around and I would sue the United States government and I would say, hey, you're responsible for the anguish we experienced when the propaganda poster was torn down, the anguish we experienced because the individual we had in captivity died under our watch. He should never have been here. He should have never committed the crime he committed that landed him in police custody. And we blame you as the American government. They're just trying to start a war. Who's trying to start a war? North Korea or the United States? Which one? He's in America. He's America, so I'm siding with him no matter what. See, that's where I kind of beg to differ, Bentley. I think that see, the problem is you have people who are considered individualists, and they do things, that jeopardize the greater populace for their own personal benefit. And then when things go awry, the general populace is expected to back that person up, even though they were out of pocket. And I just don't agree with that. Oh, you said the U.S. is the U.S. is trying to start a war? I don't know. My military days are over, so I really don't have an opinion on that. I mean, maybe they are, maybe they aren't. I know I won't be fighting in any wars. My military days are behind me. I did my time. They want in the UN. We are the ticket into the UN, so I believe they will play nice. Yeah, but if they pay $500 million, is that going to guarantee them a ticket into the UN? I mean, I don't know. And then, Kim Jong will have the perception amongst his people as having had yielded to the United States, right? So how's that going to make him look to his people? Paying the United States $500 million. How's that going to make him look? It's going to make him look soft. I don't think he's going to do it. Salute to our military veterans. Yeah, salute to our military veterans. Salute to them. They killed Sandra Bland and her family didn't get $500 million. This is exactly what I'm talking about. See, is STL for you? Is that supposed to be St. Louis for you? That looks like the St. Louis Arch. I can't tell, that avatar is so small, but yeah, STL for you. You get it. This is what I'm talking about. This is the whole purpose of the stream. Somebody gets it. I'm not saying that Otto Warmbier's family shouldn't get $501 million. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that if he gets it, everybody else here in the United States should get it. How are you going to hold another country accountable for something when you can't even hold your own police departments here in the United States accountable? Because I guarantee you, if the U.S. government, the U.S. Supreme Court starts saying, or the U.S. District Court saying, hey, we're going to award the family of Sandra Bland $501 million. We're going to award the family of, what's that guy named? Michael, that one kid that got killed. But that got us mind losing. If we're going to start awarding their families $500 million each. And from this point forward, anybody who's killed by the police or who dies in police custody, we're going to award families $501 million, and we're going to make the states pay it. I guarantee the governor of that state will get on each mayor's ass and make sure it never happens again. Mike Brown and Tamir Rice, there we go. I guarantee you each governor of each state will put an end to this nonsense that's happening with this police. Because that's what it is nonsense, because it doesn't have to occur. You know why I know it doesn't have to occur? Because money would make it stop. Now, if they start awarding these families $500 million each, and the police killing still occurred, I'd delete my whole damn YouTube channel. Stop YouTubing. But I know what happened. It wouldn't take but one judgment here in the United States to make these police departments think twice. These sheriff departments, these constables, they would think twice about just killing somebody. They will make sure that is a reason why they're killing somebody. Their life would have to be in danger. The lives of others would have to be in danger. Okay. Otto Warmbier was a justified imprisonment. Otto Warmbier was a justified imprisonment. People die in prison all the time. That's the risk of being in prison. People die on the streets all the time. Now, I have to refresh myself on the details of Tamir Rice and Mike Brown. That's irrelevant to me because there's so many other cases. Those are just two examples. There's plenty of cases where people have been killed by police. And a lot of times I feel like these killings are unnecessary. And here's the reason why. Let's draw parallels to my line of work. I work in the medical field. I work in healthcare. I've been working in healthcare for years, right? So if you come in If you come in, you come into the hospital with a stomach ache, and the hospital says, we're going to take out your entire stomach. You won't have a stomach ache anymore if we do that. You're going to say, wait a minute, that's not necessary. I got a stomach ache. Isn't there some way you can treat it? Why would you have to remove my whole stomach? That's unnecessary. Or if I have a patient that comes into the ER and they're irate, I've been waiting for 2 hours. I want to be seen right now. Now I could say, call security. I want this patient strapped down to the bed. If I just automatically escalated to having security intervene and strap down that person, that'd be over the top, unnecessary. No, my first course of action would be, let me try to mitigate this situation verbally. I understand your frustration, sir. As you can see, we're quite busy tonight, but I'm here now. How can I help you? I don't have to automatically escalate the situation. I can try to bring it down. And I think it's possible. In all cases, no. But in some cases, yes. How do I know that? Because I see distinct differences depending on who the person is being apprehended. I'll let you use your imagination on what those differences are. But yes, it can be done. Is it always done? No, unfortunately not. That's the problem. I don't need a specific example, Billy. Just conceptually understand that unjustified shootings occur. Can you understand conceptually that unjustified shootings do occur? That situations are unnecessarily escalated by the police department, by sheriff's department, by law enforcement officials. Situations that could have been mitigated by conversation, but they're not. Situation where excessive force is used. Can we at least agree that it does occur? I think we can. So the point is, why are these situations not mitigated? More of these situations should be mitigated. Like I said, all situations can't be mitigated, but a lot of them can be. I know this to be true. But with certain demographics, attempts are not made to mitigate the situation. There's already a certain disposition towards individuals of certain demographics when approached by police based on stereotypes and social stigmas. So the actual treatment is different. There's been studies that have concluded this. It's not news. Where are you from? Zydeco? Are you from Louisiana or something? Zydeco. Man, I do not want to hear no doggone Zydeco right now. I was on Rick Smake's TV news earlier. Shout out to Rick Smake's TV news, but he was playing some dang on club dance music or something. I don't know what the hell that shit was. I said I can't listen to that, man. You hear right now in my place it's quiet. You can hear a pin drop in here. Can't do all that noise. Anyways, I feel like I've been holding y'all up too long. All interactions can't be resolved. That's what I said, Bentley. This is what I'm saying. Oh, no. No. There's still issues that occur. Maybe not people getting shot, but I do see videos every single day. Go on WorldStar, go on thegrandreport.com. There's examples every day of police being out of pocket. Out of pocket. Imagine if your grandmother was in a nursing home and she was fighting and swinging and spitting and kicking, and then somebody, a staff member, just grabbed her and threw her in her chair. And their excuse was, well, she was swinging at me. I fear for my safety. She threatened my health. You would be highly upset. You would say, well, she's an old lady. You could have handled it different than that. It's three of y'all working at the same time. Y'all could have held her down. Y'all have to throw her in a chair. That's what, and I know people say that because I've heard people say that. And you know what? I agree with them. The situation could have been handled differently. This is what I'm saying. Sometimes deadly force is necessary. This is the reason why police officers carry around firearms, because sometimes they have to use it. I understand that. Not debating that. Not debating that at all. But not only do they carry around firearms, they also carry around truncheons, or nightsticks, as they sometimes call, batons, sometimes. Carry around tasers. I just saw a video earlier where there is an individual from a certain demographic fighting with the police, reaching for their firearm, trying to grab their firearm, obviously trying to grab the firearm. You can see it on camera. He's still alive. He wasn't shot. They wrestled with him. They approached the situation different. They had a whole different disposition when they approached that situation. Now, had it been me, the situation would have been handled a lot differently. And the reason why I say this is because I've been in a situation where I was assaulted by the police officers in Houston. 2 cops. I'm on a motorcycle. They threw me on the car. And not just threw me in the car. They threw me on the car, slammed me on the car, had my arm all behind my back like they were trying to break my arm or something. Unnecessarily. You know what they said I was doing? They said I was speeding. This is why that use of force was necessary, because I was speeding on a motorcycle, allegedly, even though the case would end up being dismissed. Even if they don't result in death, somebody get beat up or assaulted by the police officer and it's unwarranted. It doesn't have to result in death. There's lots of cases where cops go overboard. I had a friend who was beat up by the police officer because he was speeding. Now, mind you, he was evading arrest. So when they caught up to him, they beat the hell out of him. That wasn't necessary. They should have just arrested him, charged him with his crimes, and moved on. But out of anger and frustration, they beat him up. He was unarmed. Once they actually caught up to him, got on the ground. He didn't fight him, but they still beat him up anyway. That happens frequently. Head above water, what's going on with you? What program are you using? ManyCam. Head above water, you came late. I tried to hit you up earlier, but it's all good. We'll catch the next one. We'll do a lot. May do a live talk, maybe later on tonight or something like that. But at any rate, I think we've been on here long enough. I appreciate everybody stopping by. If you haven't done so already, make sure you hit that like button on your way in or on your way out. Head above water. Hit me up on Skype. Shoot me a message on Skype if you want to do a stream later. I'm gonna go ahead and close out this stream because I think we pretty much covered everything. Bentley, thank you for your input. Next time we got to get you on the actual get you on the panel so that way I don't have to read messages and stuff like that. We can just actually talk. CRE reality. Hey man, I asked you to get on. You don't want to get on, so well, you know, if Head Above Water want to do a stream later on, we'll do a stream later on tonight. I'm not sure what he got going on, but if he wants to, maybe we'll do a live talk again later on tonight. But in the meantime, again, thank you everybody for joining me. Yeah, so Head Above Water, hit me up on Skype Messenger. Yeah, thank you everybody for joining me. It's been a pleasure as always. Appreciate the support. You guys always come through when I start a stream. I really appreciate that. I saw you in the Aquaman movie. That's what my sister said. That's what my sister said. My sister saw the movie last night too. She was talking shit to me. Anyways, this has been Super Triz talking square business, and I'm out. Peace.